What a beautiful day. I don't like this. Whenever I grow tired of the beauty of natural life, it always feels like a perfect opportunity to play video games. But whenever I'm not sure what game to play next, I always consult the game dog, the video game dog that lives in my house with me. Let me just go ahead and... I guess it's better than being outside. Today I'm going to talk about the hottest ARMS-based fighting game that came out over 3 years ago, ARMS. Before I begin, I just want to make something clear. When it comes to video games in general, I'm not really the competitive type. That includes everything from Mario Kart to 50 Cent Blood on the Sand. Sure, I do play games online, but I'm not one to spend 400 hours getting good at any one in particular. And even with the games I'm best at, like Smash, I still mostly suck. So when I look at something like ARMS, please remember that whatever I say will always be from that loser garbage casual perspective. I really want this to be more of a first impressions type thing. Like, what does somebody who knows nothing about ARMS get if they throw $60 at it? And is it still fun to play several years into its life? Let's find out. Starting off with a little backstory, ARMS was first announced in January 2017, 2 months before the release of the Nintendo Switch, with a trailer that felt like the longest 2.5 minutes of my life. Just f***ing hit each other already! During a post-launch interview, producer Kosuke Yabuki stated that ARMS was born out of a desire to create a fighting game where the camera was set behind the player character at all times, because that has never been done in a Nintendo game before. But all silliness aside, ARMS would be the first fully 3D fighting game with this camera system, at least as far as I know, whereas Punch-Out's mobility options were limited to simply dodging left and right. And speaking of Punch-Out, another fun fact is that ARMS was originally going to feature characters from that series, as well as ones from Mario and Zelda, at least until the developers realized that Luigi and the gang wouldn't fit in with their new project's other major concept, the gimmick of everybody being cursed with grotesquely long arms. See, the long arms were designed to bridge the gap between players and their opponents, since the developers knew that there would often be ample space between them. A little coding here, a sprinkle of Nintendo magic there. Boom, ARMS was born, released on June 16, 2017 to a resounding... Hey, I mean, it did do okay relatively speaking, currently sitting at over 2 million units sold, which is no small potatoes for a new fighting IP. But it always felt like this game was a bit of an afterthought, despite Nintendo doing everything they could to breathe life into it, including after launch. They took the Splatoon approach with this one, adding in free characters and stages as DLC, and hosting online tournaments to keep the game active for months after it released. However, unlike Splatoon 2, this game just hasn't followed along with the Switch's success, seeing its sales stagnate pretty quickly. All of this culminated with Min Min, one of the best ARMS characters, being added to Smash Ultimate in June 2020, which did boost interest in her home game, albeit marginally. For what it's worth, I got my Switch about a month after this game came out, and it just never really appealed to me. I thought it looked fine, but it all seemed pretty simplistic, and the base gameplay didn't look like my thing. Min Min getting into Smash did remind me that this game, exists. But I was always intrigued by how irrelevant a new Nintendo IP managed to feel right out of the gate, especially considering the support it kept receiving from the company. I finally decided to play it because I found a guy on Craigslist who was selling it for 30 bucks. Which is about $10 more than I think this game is worth at this point, but nonetheless I bought it anyway because I'm not good with money. Let's finally play ARMS! Starting off with a warning to use the Joy-Con straps, no thank you, and I'm doing it! I'm playing ARMS! I can't wait to see how this game starts off! Okay, maybe it's not the biggest deal in the world, but man, it sucks that this game has no opening intro, no fun cutscene, nothing. Just ARMS! Seriously, I would have been fine with a 10-second gif of all the fighters bouncing around Spring Stadium or a cartoon Helix drinking a cup of coffee. Anything! This really does bother me more than it should. Even something like Paper Mario Sticker Star had more going on in its intro, and that game's a soggy sack of crap. But again, not the biggest deal I guess, just... I don't appreciate this. Press play and already they have the nerve to demand me to pick a fighter. Come on, slow down, I'm not done being disappointed by the lack of an intro yet. But okay, let's see. I'll pick this one. She reminds me of me. After choosing Clown Girl, the game throws you into a very brief and basic tutorial, teaching you how to jump, guard, punch, dash, and use rush attacks. And while just about everything feels intuitive, I'm already not a fan of the character movement. You move by tilting both controllers left and right, and it just doesn't feel good to me. It's a little too stiff and unnatural. I feel like a simple remedy would have been allowing you to move with the left joystick while keeping the rest of the game motion-based. But from what I can gather online, there's no way to do this unless I give up all motion controls and play with a standard controller. Come on, I have no interest in even trying that. Where's the fun there? But really, if I did actually miss an option to play with Joy-Cons and motion controls together, please let me know. If that exists, I apologize to all of the disgruntled ARM fans out there for criticizing the game unfairly. After getting through the tutorial, I think it's safe to start with this game's single player mode. Given that this is a fighting game with an emphasis on online matchmaking, I'm not really expecting much, just a basic little story to get me acquainted with the controls. And here it is, Grand Prix. Win 10 fights to become champ. I had no expectations and this description still upsets me. So Grand Prix mode is pretty much just that, 10 rounds in a row, or 11 if you're playing on harder difficulties. Most rounds are just standard fights, but 2 are mini-games to break up the monotony. You beat them, you win. Hey, I know her! In between each fight, you're interrupted by this freaky little thing called Biff, an absolute headass who apparently runs a bakery. Oh, and speaking of bakeries, while writing this video I found out that this game actually has a pretty decent lore behind it. Cool? Personally, I didn't need to know that Clown Girl over here also runs a bakery, and apparently her and Biff might be rivals for that reason, but hey, that's what the ARMS wiki tells me, so there's that fun fact. But anyway, I played Grand Prix on the easiest difficulty because I'm a coward, and unsurprisingly I blazed through it. Well, except for this one minigame, Skill Shot. This is a battle where your goal is to hit as many targets as possible while also trying to get in your opponent's way, and despite being on the easiest difficulty, this cheater robot and his dumb dog were absolutely relentless. It took me 38 minutes to win this stupid minigame that I never want to see again in my entire life. But yeah, that aside, considering the fact that this is the game's main offline single player mode, I was extremely disappointed. Even Mario Tennis Aces had a better story mode than this. At least in that game you had a conversation with mirrors at one point. That was weird. Here, no, it's just fight 8 or 9 times, beat 2 minigames, no talking to mirrors at any points, congrats, you're a champ. Although, there were 3 things I liked about Grand Prix. 1, you can play it in co-op, which I didn't, but I appreciate having the option. 2, you get this cute little fanfare if you win. That's neat, but it just reminds me that this game has no intro animation, and now I'm upset again. And 3, you can retry any match that you fail at as many times as you like without being penalized, which definitely came in handy for me when I was dealing with this garbage.
I'll bark, I'll bite.
Oh, you! But in addition to the intrinsic reward of being a champ, beating Grand Prix for the first time also unlocks ranked online battles. Cool, I'm definitely not ready to fight against an actual human, but screw it, let's go ahead and try to find a match anyway, maybe I'll pull it off. Thank God this game lets you find a match in the background, so I can move on to Versus. This is a series of various offline play modes, and, well, they're definitely modes. Starting with Fight, you fight against a friend or a computer, the name isn't lying. Team Fight, it's fight with teams, another point for honesty. I don't like fighting against more than one opponent, things feel too hectic, but I played against CPUs, so I see how this could be fun with friends. Volleyball. This is a match where you have a limited amount of time to spike a volleyball to your opponent before it explodes. I appreciate this for being something different, but I don't really like the execution of it. The camera feels jerky and the ball's movements feel a little too random at times. But let me just finish this match and oh my god! I actually got into a ranked match! And it only took 9 minutes and 12 seconds! Let me just hop in here and see what I can do. Back to Versus mode. Hoops. I played this one during my Grand Prix and liked it a lot. It's similar to volleyball, but instead of playing with an actual ball, this time you're tasked with getting your opponent into a basketball net as many times as possible. The camera can be a little annoying here too, but I like how this mode seems to prioritize grabbing opponents, which is my favorite move to pull off, and the game overall feels more satisfying and less random than volleyball did. So far, easily my favorite Versus mode. Skill Shot. No! Headlock Scramble. This one kind of sucks. So it's basically just fight mode, but with a twist. There's a helmet on the stage that makes whoever grabs it stronger for a while. Do you need the helmet in order to win? Do you need to play defense when you're in possession of the helmet? Kinda like the Shine Thief mode in Mario Kart? No, it's just a power-up. It definitely gives whoever has it a beefy advantage, but if the name was more honest like the others, it would have been called Wasted Potential the game. But I'll end on a positive note and say that the headlock helmet has a really cool design, so for that reason alone, I think I prefer it to volleyball. Next we have 1-on-100, otherwise known as
Multi-Man Melee!
In this mode, you're tasked with defeating 100 Helix reskins without dying, although the game gives you health boosts after each 10 enemies killed, and this is mind-numbingly dull. The Folixes get progressively stronger and dodgier as it goes on, but they only take a few hits to kill. I checked out after killing Folix number 5 and kinda just swung around until I died, and I still somehow killed 87 of them. I can appreciate this one for the arcadey feel of it, but I would rather take a comfortable nap than ever play it again. Last is Test Mode, which allows you to test out different arm combinations against computers. I did not try this mode. Instead, I felt like this was a good opportunity to try connecting to another ranked fight before moving on to party mode. Let me just connect in the background and move on to... What? Why was it so fast this time? Okay, sure, I mean, I can try this. And hey, look, I actually won round 1. Maybe this time I'll have a chance to... On to party mode! Somewhat surprisingly, compared to ranked battles, party mode seems to be the meat and potatoes of ARMS' online options. First of all, I was delighted to see that I was able to connect with other humans pretty quickly, and I was even more delighted to find out that the game's online is actually really good. Somebody please call Sakurai and tell him that fighting games on the Switch can actually work online, please. But essentially, party mode throws you into a room with up to 7 other players, and randomly assigns some of you to various versus modes. Which means, guess what? Lots of ARMS fights! And after only playing for a couple of hours at this point, I am already growing tired of ARMS fights! After being thrown into a couple standard battles, I'm finally placed into a minigame and... Well, hey, at least I didn't get my ass kicked this time. I feel vindicated. Honestly, I know I've been pretty negative so far, but I actually think party mode is really cool. I mean, it's just versus mode with extra steps, but it runs well. It's fast-paced since you only have 1 stock for each match. It's thankfully pretty populated, and it's a decent amount of mindless fun. I can actually see myself playing this from time to time, even if it's just in short bursts. Friends lets you play with friends, local lets you play online locally, training is training. Cool, let's move on. Blasting through some miscellaneous options down here, we have Help, which gives you some tips and control info. For the ARMS superfan, huh? No thank you. Dashboard, which displays online rankings and whatnot. Kind of a weird use of the word dashboard, but maybe I'm missing something. Stats, which provides character stats. Thank God! Next is replays. The game records all footage and replaces old footage with new stuff. That's neat, but that description makes it sound like the game installed a virus to my memory card. Gallery, which is unlockable artwork. I need to see what's behind that Helix photo. I swear to God I will come back to this! Badges. This game showers you with badges even for doing things like sucking 3 times in a row. Basically a form of achievements. Pretty cool, I guess. I appreciate it being here. Set arms. You can set your character's arms here. Yes! And my favorite option of them all, get arms. See, each character has a ton of different arms and shields they can unlock, all of which have different abilities attached to them. In this mode, you throw some of your in-game money at a better version of the skill shot minigame to collect points and, if you're lucky, grab new stuff. This is such a fun and silly way of unlocking things. It reminds me of blasting at trophies to pick up new ones in Smash Brawl. But I will say, as much as I do like the concept, given the fact that the arms all have unique abilities that directly impact gameplay, it's a little weird if this is the only way to unlock new ones. It's inherently random, and if you're playing competitively, I can definitely see this being a thorn in your side. But I'm not playing competitively, so from that perspective I like it a lot. It's fun. I even got cool black boxing gloves for Clown Girl. Now that I accounted for all of the gameplay stuff, let's quickly talk about music and presentation, because I don't really have a lot to say about it. The music and presentation of ARMS is stellar, no surprise there. Nintendo's pretty consistent with that sort of thing, especially in the Switch era. I love the soundtrack with all of its... I love how stylized and bright everything is. I love how varied all of the characters are. Well, except for Robot Springman here. Wait a minute. That voice sounds familiar. Sorry Nintendo, I think Nickelodeon actually has the cooler evil robot version of a main protagonist on the Switch. But anyway, yeah, all of the characters minus Robot Springman are really cool and unique. Also, they each have their own properties that affect their fighting ability, but I'll admit I didn't learn too much about any of them minus Clown Girl. This game looks and sounds A+. I don't think anybody can deny that, and I'm positive that it's all gonna age like fine wine. But again, no surprise there. So that's pretty much what you get with ARMS if you buy it today. A simple, somewhat arcadey fighting game with lots of customization options and a wonderful aesthetic, but honestly, a pretty barren package overall. Okay, let me circle back to what I said earlier. I have no intention of playing this game competitively. So if that's why you're interested in picking it up, you might actually have a good time here, at least if you hop into a Discord server or subreddit to find opponents. I don't want to get too deep into this topic because I realize that I'm not the target audience for this sort of thing, so feel free to take what I'm about to say with a grain or cupful of salt. But from what I can tell, it does seem like there are a decent amount of techniques you can learn to get better at the game, and of course with 15 different characters and a bajillion different unlockables, each with their own stats and properties, this is definitely trying to appeal to a more hardcore audience, especially compared to other Nintendo games. However, on the surface I can't shake the feeling that this game is just too overly simplistic to fill that hardcore niche that they seem to have been going for. Similar to Smash Bros, it's no secret that the developers at Nintendo are always focused on attracting casual audiences of all ages and skill level more than competitive ones, due to their design philosophy of trying to make games that any player can pick up and enjoy. And I can totally respect that, but it kind of becomes a problem here because unlike Smash, which is proudly trying to be a party game that can also appeal to competitive players, it feels like ARMS isn't quite sure what it wants to be. I feel like the silly, fast-paced nature of party mode is its greatest strength, but the game really does seem like it wants to be taken seriously as an actual deeper fighting game. Maybe not a fighting game with a steep learning curve or tricky combos like Street Fighter and the like, but this is definitely trying to be more of a fighting game than something like Smash. However, the reason why Smash became such a big deal competitively is because the base game is easy enough for anybody to understand, but complex enough to allow dedicated players to keep getting better at it. Basically, Smash became competitive kind of by accident, but it worked because the game's design works for that style of play, even if it wasn't made that way. Especially when looking at Ultimate, everything is so well balanced that a skilled player can pick up a weak character like Little Mac and still stand a chance against a friend who is only okay at the game, but playing as a much stronger character like Joker or Snake. I don't know anything about Smash Bros matchups, by the way, that was just an example. In addition, all of the Smash games are just chock full of content, which gives them more inherent value and incentivizes you to keep playing and thus keep getting better. I bought Ultimate and both Fighters Passes, meaning I threw over $100 total at that game, and I still feel like I got a good deal given the amount of content and options in the package. Here, it took me 3 years until I finally bought this game for half of what it normally sells for, mainly out of curiosity more than anything. And if I can be fully honest, I still feel like I didn't get my money's worth. Like I said, if you want to commit time into getting good at this game, I would say you can have a decently fun and rewarding experience with ARMS. It screams polish, it's uniquely Nintendo, yada yada yada. But as a more casual player, there just isn't enough here for me to want to come back and keep playing. And even if I was into the more competitive side of things, the gameplay doesn't seem complex enough for me personally to ever want to devote time to improving and getting stronger either. Again, it's not a bad game at all. I had some fun moments, like party mode was entertaining and the basketball minigame was some good cheap fun, but I gotta admit, I was really disappointed with ARMS. I didn't want to be. I came into this experience hoping to feel more positive, but that was my nutshell takeaway. Hey, maybe I can cheer myself up by checking what was behind that Helix photo from earlier. Remember that? Hopefully that was worth the hype. I feel dead inside. So, in conclusion, oh, look, another ranked match. Okay, whatever, let me just... So, in conclusion, ARMS rocks, and I'm the f***ing master at it now. Yeah, that's right. I'm giving this game 100 out of 10. Yes! So that was my opinion on ARMS. It's, No, I'm not doing this. Whew. Now that I'm finally done playing ARMS and I'm not gonna touch all of that, this is a perfect chance for me to ask the Game Dog what to play next. Maybe I should go outside again.